So for a lot of years, I've been coming to Plymouth Presbyterian Church, and I have been telling an annual Christmas story written for children because I just love kids, and I used to teach Sunday school. And this year is my 42nd year of writing the stories. And it's about a guy named Willard and four of his friends. They were 9-year-olds. They were in 4th grade. And Willard's friends' names were Oliver and Olivia. They were twins. And Liam and Ava. So this is an encounter they had. Willard lived out in this small town in a large forest around the town. And he had a white beard, and the kids thought he was 50 or 100 or 200 years old, but I don't think he was that old. And they were curious about him. And he was curious about them. And so one day, they spotted him climbing up into a tree. And they thought to themselves, what is this crazy guy doing? And Willard noticed him, but he just kept climbing up. For Willard had been living in a big old tree house for many, many years, out in the forest. And he loved nature. He loved the flowers and the foods and the lifestyle of living alone in this big old treehouse that he'd really made into a nice place. Well, the four kids had never seen a treehouse, and particularly one so high up in a tree, big old oak tree. So he slowly befriended them and then invited them up to see the treehouse and have a meal, which was all healthy, natural foods. And he also started asking him a question. He said, you know, one of the questions that I think you should think about, because I've been thinking about it, is what would you do if this was the last day of the whole world? And Ava said something like, you got to be kidding. Are you talking about a world war and we're blowing each other up? And Liam said, well, maybe he's talking about cancer and everybody gets sick or a disease. And they were curious about what he really meant. And he said, no, I just want you to think about what you would do if this were, how would you live if this was the last day of the whole world? And one time they were out, it was cold, it was in December, and they all were bundled up, and they were out having an adventure day, as they called him, with Willard. And he raised this question about the last day of the world again. And he said he had been having a feeling about the end of the world, and maybe he could talk to them a little bit about that. Sometimes being frightened and sometimes feeling at peace, both frightened and at peace about what the end of the world might bring is what he shared with them. And he says, I'm not sure where I come out on this. Well, the kids didn't get too engaged with him until they learned that Willard had been found in the forest, in the snow, and taken to the hospital some days after they had met with him. Well, Ava's father was a doctor, and so he got permission for those four friends to go see their white-bearded friend in the hospital. And this day happened to be Christmas Eve, December 24th. And the music in Willard's room was Silent Night. You could hear that, Christmas hymns, quiet, gentle. Well, when the four kids came to the hospital room, Willard told them that he really had thought a lot about that world-like dream. And he reasoned that it may have been his own life journey that was winding down. They didn't know exactly what he meant by that, but they listened as he said, you know, in the Bible, when you read the story of Jesus Christ, and they had talked about this many times before, in John 14:6, it says, Jesus said to his followers, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Willard's belief in God through a lifetime of learning and living the lessons of Jesus had made a profound impact, particularly at this Christmas season. He spent a whole hour telling stories and asking questions with his good friends, even though he was not very well. And that man who was 80 and maybe more years old, which is 80 or 85 years old, really had a fine time. And he said, as the kids left and were waving at him, he said, "Merry Christmas." And the kids said, "We love you." Thank you. A copy of the story of Willard and his four friends and the one question he asked them, the big question. You can get one by contacting the church office. They have some. Or you can get that church directory out that we all spend so much time in and look up my email and send me an email saying, "I want that story about Willard and the kids," and I will send it to you and you'll have it in your email. God bless you. Merry Christmas.